That we kind of bring that back for a little bit more discussion this week. I think really it indicated maybe a little better understanding of the property along that street. Mr. Andrews, as you know, was not here today to discuss. I think as far as in the backup, we did note the value of those parcels along that street frontage as noted in the property appraiser's office, which I would remind you that certainly is not a sale price that an independent appraiser might put on that. Also, I've noted in the backup the cost of road and bridge estimate for paving that road utilizing our standard practice. It is that road is on the restore list that will be coming up soon for further discussion. A list of dirt roads for paving that's on that restore application. Now that is certainly there's not a time frame for exact action relative to that list in terms of when it would be approved or acted upon, and the cost would be somewhat a different question mark relative to what monitoring requirements might satisfy the restore application as well. One other thing, just as a side note, Mr. Furman did meet with members of the Water Management District, I believe, last week. After there had been an afternoon rain, he went down and met with them on San Juan, and they went further down to the retention area and wetlands area off of Avalon Boulevard below the I-10 project. I think their eyes were open quite a bit, the Northwest Florida Water Management District, when they observed the ditch on San Juan and the clarity of the water there, and then observed the clarity of the water down off of Avalon there. I think they really had an eye-opening experience there. So that's where we are, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other comments, Commissioner Parker?
I'd just say, since I had the opportunity to meet with the Northwest Florida Management as well as our administrator and Mr. Furman, recently since then, and realizing even through their own testimony that this problem really became a problem once the DOT construction began, I have reached out again. I think it's terrific. I almost wish we would have held this to Thursday, but I wasn't aware at the time. I made the request down at Tiger Point that our district state representative would be here Thursday, but I have directed folks to notify him. I have sent him the report that you just referred to for Mr. Furman. I actually got an email back over the weekend, saying thanks, and I think now he's probably got some new insight to the project. It's kind of my comments at the time, because I want us to work towards solving our problem, but I think we've got to, and I'll address it with him when he's here Thursday. If we take care of 25% of the problem, and I'm just using that as an example, 75% of the problem is still going to be there until we can get some leverage, and hopefully he can do that, because he's I'm assuming to DOT what we are to Road and Bridge here as far as the legislative body. So,
all right. Well, I mean, there's no homes on this street that I'm aware of. I just don't see us spending county dollars unless we can get state input to make any improvements to these roads. Any other comments from commissioners? We got one public comment. Barbara?
One thing I'd just say as she comes up, and as he said, Roy is not here, and I surely don't want to speak for him, but I know one option that we had possibly discussed that, again, is an option, there's going to be some good and bad with it, is if we didn't pave it, if we capped it per se with sand and grassed it, I think he said there would be a partial diminished value to some of these property owners. There's some options, but one thing he did say that I will convey is that before we would take action of anything that would possibly diminish value, so basically any option rather than paving it, he thinks it would be if I remember right, prudent for us to do a mail-out notification to the affected property owners. So they're going to have, hopefully a chance for input. Really, the only option that we wouldn't need to do that for was if we paved the road.
All right.
But anyway, I just wanted to convey that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Barbara Albrecht, 1528 East Brainerd. Thank you for looking into this. Thank you, County Administrator Gamillion. One question that really pops out is how many of the property owners on San Juan are current with their property taxes? Are there any that have gone delinquent over time?
I don't have any idea.
Okay, because as I pointed out in the presentation 2 weeks ago, that system is tidally influenced. And that's something that was not evident to the county or to DOT until we started paving the interstate, and that action was taken to clear the right-of-way along the interstate, which then opened the avenue for the area on the north side of the interstate to drain with our rain events. I mean, it's not like a blame game. It's a multiple set of factors that have all kind of compounded.
Well, I really think until they get the interstate finished, plus with the addition of all the rain we've had this year, and we've seen it when they were doing I-110. They, all the silt and the red clay that escaped into the creek there.
Carpenter Creek.
Carpenter Creek. So right now we have, I think, a similar instance. We got an absorbent amount of rain in a very short period of time. We've got construction going on. So really, and like you say, it's not a blame game. It just happened. The good Lord blessed us with way more rain than we needed all at one time, but we'll have to deal with it. So until I think this project's finished and we can get everything settled out again, I really don't see a resolve to it. We can continue with silt fencing and protective measures, but until they're done and cut the ribbon on this thing, I really think we're kind of in a standstill position.
The difference between Carpenter Creek, which I'll be presenting on tomorrow night for our community in Escambia County, and Indian Bayou, is that Carpenter Creek is an inland system that starts off at a elevation of 135 feet and then drains down. Indian Bayou and the north end of the interstate between Avalon Boulevard to the west is a tidal wetland system.
Yeah.
So they completely apples and oranges. They can't be compared.
Well, what I'm comparing is
It's the amount of
the
construction.
amount of, the construction. Yeah.
But also the amount of red clay and the grading and the concept of digging ditches to lower the water table and to have drainage. I mean, that's what we basically did with the Everglades. And fast forward, here we are still trying to fix those issues. I mean, we know more today than we have ever about how our environment works, how these ecosystem services and functions interact. And I'm just bringing it to your attention. I applaud the county for doing their effort. I applaud the efforts that we're taking. Ideally, this property, according to the Santa Rosa County Land Development Code, is the low-lying area. It's in harm's way. If you put in a road, you'll encourage development. If you encourage development in a low-lying area, you're going to have an impact later on to Indian Bayou. Indian Bayou right now is looked at because it has high mercury levels, and it's a sedimentation issue. And I've shined a light on it for the county commissioners, but also the water management has a responsibility, as does the DEP, as does the state, to not allow these systems, which have been lost over time, to continue being lost. So, I mean, we just went through the process of trying to get an estuary program, RFP, for our area so that we can improve our water quality. Like I said a couple weeks ago, this is a low-hanging fruit. We can do better. So perhaps look at the elevation there, recognize that it's very low, maybe that area needs to be condemned. I mean, we surely didn't know then what we know now, but now that we know what we know, perhaps that property should have never been on the tax base, and the property owners there can be purchased out. There are mitigation banks that are interested in that property. DOT is going to be making their way to the east. They're going to have to do mitigation all along the way. Why not let them utilize this? Water management has a mitigation bank. They have the way to handle this. You have GCPEP that could easily take that over. There are so many options, and I'm willing to be creative and help you in this, but you know, keeping that on the books is not a good idea. And as I pointed out a couple weeks ago, there were homeowners that were actually trying to give the property back, and as Mr. Gomillion pointed out, it's a swampland. We don't want it.
Well, if there's mitigation banks that are interested in this, would they not approach the property owners and start buying up these properties? How?
Well, it has to go through the county somewhat.
Okay.
And I understand that the county doesn't want to have to deal with all these individual homeowners, but in reality, if you look at the low water table, people that are going to want to build there, are you going to permit a septic tank in a low-lying wetland area that's tidally influenced, given what we know now? No.
Well,
Why is this even a point of discussion? I mean, you're dealing with flooding, you're dealing with...
There's thousands of lots out here that would have to be dealt with, not just the ones along this road.
I understand. I've looked at this. I've been studying it for over a year, and I've collected data.
Nothing we're going to be able to figure out today. It's a
No,
bigger thing we could
and I
choose,
certainly
so-
understand that.
so
I'm here
I'd
to...
like to go ahead and move on now with this. I don't see any action for Thursday, but we'll certainly, you know me for a long time. We've been on
Right.
BARC together, so maybe it's something we need to bring up at BARC and see if we can get these mitigation banks involved. So let's discuss that more further at maybe one of the BARC meetings.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
All right, our next item, there won't be any action on number 18 for Thursday, so number 19 is reciprocant application and risk management. Discussion and approval